من ذا أصابك يا بغداد بالعين ألم تكوني زمان قرة العين. O Baghdad, who afflicted you with an evil eye? Were you not once the eye's delight? These words by Amr ibn Abd al-Malik al-Warraq were the inspiration from which the Baghdad exhibit at the Qatar National Museum of Islamic Art was derived. Like clamshells protecting a pearl from rough waves, this exhibit preserves the gems of the culture experienced by my ancestors and runs through my bloodline. In December 2012, I moved from Northern Virginia, the place that I had always called home, to the Middle East, the place my family called home. As a child of the diaspora, I wasn't ready to call the Arab world home just yet, because I didn't know how to claim those various aspects of my identity. However, just 4 years later, I made the decision to put on the hijab. I chose to put perhaps the most vital aspect of my identity on display, preserving its values in the minds of whoever I would meet, talk to, or create even the slightest impression on. Human beings have a natural biological instinct for self-preservation. It's been the driving basis of a plethora of historic actions, stories, forms of architecture, values, cultures, and beliefs. However, paradoxically, it has also been the reason that we've deviated away from those aspects of our backgrounds, such as through war and migration. The juxtaposition of holding on to and letting go of parts of who we are has always been needed for self-preservation, and we see it more today than ever before. In this contemporary world of globalization and industrialization, we are constantly finding ourselves at a crossroads between inviting new ideas into our communities and grasping onto our traditional declarations with an iron fist. In high school, I was a member of the debate team, and one day after a practice session after school, my mom called. Now, despite having spent the past 2 hours crafting arguments in English, I picked up the phone and responded in Arabic, my mother tongue. It was the most natural thing in the world for me to make the switch between the two languages, but my debate coach was in awe. Having been born and raised in Wisconsin, she asked me how I was able to do it, to do the skill that so many first-generation immigrant students are accustomed to. This skill is called code switching, defined by Britannica as the process of switching from one linguistic code to another, depending on the social context or environmental setting. With a little perception, you'll realize just how often we use it on a daily basis. We read signs and menus in multiple languages and adjust our accents to be more understood to those on the receiving end. We adjust our dialects to accommodate the phonetics of the region that the person we're speaking to is from, and we hold conversations in an amalgamation of languages. To make the use of Arabic more accessible in this rapidly westernized climate, this generation of Arabs often uses Arabic and English in the same sentence, and sometimes even the same word, a phenomenon that is colloquially referred to as Arabizi, Arabic and English. It has transcended conversational platforms to establish the unofficial language of using Latin-derived letters and Western-adopted numbers to text Arabic words, allowing this group of letters and numbers to translate to the Arabic version of the word good night. Tasbah ala khair. May you wake up to goodness. The evolutionary instinct of self-preservation has instilled this ornate skill of being able to receive information inputted in Latin-derived phonetic visuals and within seconds interpret it, translate it, and respond with an output of the language of the Quran, with its elegant intricacies, yet dramatically different characters and set of grammatical rules. This skill goes on to encompass more than just verbal forms of communication. It also includes nonverbal forms of communication as well. The Harvard Business Review states code switching to be the adjustment of one's style of speech, appearance, behavior, or any form of expression in ways that will optimize the comfort of others in exchange for fair treatment, quality service, employment opportunities. For example, Arabs use it to know when to split the bill when gathered with Western groups versus when to fight over the bill when gathered with other Arabs at a dinner table, knowing that the actions are perceived differently on the basis of the backgrounds of those involved. When greeting someone, we use it to gauge whether to reach out for a handshake, lean in for a hug, how many kisses to give on either side of the cheek, or whether to establish any physical contact at all. Early in his first term, former US President Barack Obama greeted the white assistant coach of the US Olympic basketball team differently to how he greeted Black NBA player Kevin Durant, drawing attention to the phenomenon. Research shows that in the United States, Black students and employees will often alternate between African American vernacular English and standard English based on the accepted perception of professionalism in the settings of wherever they are. So essentially, it entails conforming to another environment for the comfort of the people in that environment, but for a benefit that ultimately comes back to us, the conformers. By using code switching, you demonstrate your knowledge of two things. You demonstrate the understanding of how the person you're speaking to prefers to receive information. And in turn, you also demonstrate that by presenting yourself in that manner, you have the ability to improve how they perceive that information. By code switching, you show an understanding that you are able to use it to you have the ability to use it to strengthen your connection to another person. Barry's model of acculturation describes the 4 ways in which a person adjusts to being in a new culture: assimilation, separation, integration, and marginalization. Code switching is a beautiful display of integration in which a person both appreciates their original identity while simultaneously expressing themselves in a way that their new society can have it well interpreted and appreciated at the same time. However, if we're not careful, we can find ourselves breaching that fine line between appreciating external cultures in harmony with ours and completely conforming to them at the expense of our own. So why is it so important to maintain that delicate balance? Well, whether you recognize it or not, it gives you a voice. It gives you a massive audience when there are those who don't even have a seat at the podium. Today, we see the cessation of cultures that withstood centuries of change that could not overcome the alluring pull of globalization. You have the ability to express your background and know that it will be perceived on a different set of cultural norms and values, which allows you to work with that information to reduce miscommunication and the formation of negative portrayals of both ourselves and those different from us. Whether a third culture kid or a child of the diaspora, you have the ability to bridge together East and West, mountain and desert born and raised, English native and polylingual. And while that grand task of guarding our heritage may seem daunting, it doesn't need to be displayed on the international stage to be protected. The greatest stories have been passed down through word-of-mouth readings across generations. The most significant changes have been made through the smallest steps taken with eternal consistency. However, Preserving our identities isn't just about holding on to our ancestors' pasts. It's also about preserving the communities of today with whom we share our values and beliefs in the universally understood language of solidarity. It means defending our communities when they are at risk of dilapidation. It means working around the clock to generate awareness for our neighborhoods when the world turns a blind eye. It means instilling empathy in the hearts of others for events occurring halfway across the world. It means creating family out of strangers, brothers and sisters out of passerby. Because while code switching requires you to adapt to the person you're speaking to, that natural instinct to protect our own doesn't require translation anywhere across the world. You have a repertoire of experiences in your mind that allows you to understand the homes of others, and with that, you have the ability to protect your own home. Each individual in this room can contribute to the paradigm shift of protecting the ornaments, of conserving the ornaments of ancestry, heritage, values, identities, and traditions that make up our communities. And you don't need to have museums and exhibitions to do so. You don't have to cross the greatest lengths to have that impact. It truly is as simple as saying good night. Thank you.